And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of the Pattison Sports Show. I'm your host, James Scores, and with you. And with me, as always, is this week's very version of the Philly versus New York Phase 2. And joining us once again is our good friend. But before we go any further here, Joey Marks joining me like he always does on this very important Saturday. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, James. Good morning, Philadelphia. Man, I am looking forward to this one because when we have a conversation with this guy, it's always a good time. I
Yes,
want
he
to
is.
welcome in our very special guest, the Godfather Part Two, Scott Churchson from Streampunk Entertainment. Good morning, Scott.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Boy, I was you really must be scraping the bottom of the barrel to get me on this one, you know. But no, seriously, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jeremy Shockey was booked for the morning, so
Oh yeah, I know. He had some mall opening or something like that. I
yeah.
think.
Yeah. Or Tiki Barber or
Yeah.
Victor Cruz.
Well, Tiki's trying to figure out why his children's book isn't selling. But anyhow, um, so let's get it started. We're going to start with the Philadelphia Phillies, and in Philadelphia, Scott, like the sky is falling because of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Mm.
In the last month, we were gone from the highest of highs of getting into the playoffs and getting the bye, and trying to make this run and feeling really juiced up with Duran and Bader. Now, the sky is falling because you have an early exit once
Mhm.
again. You have all those fans here that said, "Call me in October," when they actually do something, and they're all saying, "See, I told you they didn't do anything." And then you have the president, Dave Dombrowski, throwing the essential MVP of the team under the bus in a exit press conference late last week. My question to you, from the outsider perspective, from the guy who probably saw his team collapse far worse than the Phillies, the New York Mets, my question to you is this as bad? Have the Phillies collapsed as bad as the Philly fans are making it out to be?
Hmm.
No, but I do believe there's concerns. The free agency concerns. We can get there in a sec. But I don't think it's as bad because the truth is they're going up against a Dodger team in this case here that was just built for October. And we'll discuss the Dodgers and my feelings on that team in a minute too, because of the systems they've got and some stats behind that as well. But Philadelphia is, when it comes to Eagle Nation and Philly Nation, it is success or failure. It's black and white. There is no level to growth. You can look at, say the 76ers or the Flyers and be like, okay, well, they made the playoffs. They won a round. Okay, we have something to build on. For those two teams that I just mentioned there, the Phillies and the Eagles, it is either, championship or bust. It is World Series win or bust. And I think part of it is also the fact that, Bryce Harper has been here for a while. He had the big contract there. He left, Washington a few years ago. And there was an expectation that they would win championships with him. And so far, it has not panned out. Now, you mentioned the Mets in this case here. That fear and that anxiety is already there. I hated the Juan Soto deal. I did, and I didn't care if the Yankees got him. From a financial standpoint, he is not going to be the same player he is when he's 35.
Hmm.
When you're still paying him $70+ million a year, pushing even 80 in this case, dear God in heaven. So you have, so as far as Philly Nation goes, you're seeing a team right now that I think could have been built for October. Basically going into, I hate to say it, November, because it's possible we may go that far with the World Series.
Yeah.
But the truth is they are just going up against a stonewall right now that is the Dodgers. But that doesn't placate Philly Nation at all. The truth be told, NL East be damned. I was rooting for the Phillies straight up. I don't want to see the Dodgers in there. I don't care. I mean, the Dodgers have been ruining baseball for 10 years. Yes, I've said it. I don't care. When you spend $35 million on a starting pitcher named David Price and you put him in the bullpen, it's like, okay, you're just peeing money, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and when you deal with someone like Shohei Ohtani and you're basically outbidding everybody else, You're basically saying, "Hey, we're going to do what the Yankees used to do, and we're going to pay for our roster," and basically that's what they've done. They paid for their championships. With the Juan Soto deal, I agree with you. Like I thought, okay, he's going to go to the highest bidder, and everyone kept saying these numbers, and I'm just like, there's no way that numbers like that exist. And then you see the Shohei Ohtani deal, and you're like, never mind, they exist. Then they exist only in baseball because those are like stupid numbers.
Well,
And
stupid money. I was going to say the same thing like you said.
yeah, and you got to remember when Bryce Harper was signed,
Mm,
you had
Mhm.
someone like, Manny Machado, and you had Bryce Harper, and then later
right.
on Mike Trout, that all had these like numbers right around the same range.
Mm.
And at that point in time, that was considered, especially by John Middleton, as stupid money.
Mm,
Now you get, the Mets and the Dodgers that go, you think that's stupid. Wait till you see this.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, hold this. And so, like, that the part that, I think frustrates Phillies fans, and James, you can chime in about this too,
yeah.
is that the expectation for Phillies fans and being the Phillies in general was that we were supposed to beat the Dodgers because we have beaten the Dodgers so handily in the season. So when we got the Dodgers, I honestly thought, okay, we got this. Even though a lot of people on the outside looking in were like, it's the Dodgers. You never
Yep.
know. You're reigning champs. You never know. And I'm like, yeah, but look at what we did in the season. It just
That's right.
felt like it was different. And I understand, like, our other colleague, Mitch Kofsky, has said time and time again that Rob Thompson is the problem.
Mm,
I contend. I'm like, when you have a guy that has taken your team to the playoff 4 straight years
right.
and won 2 back-to-back division championships, you're not firing him. Like, I get that you might feel like you have to blame someone. I think Dave Dombrowski was right by calling out the best player on the team. I know that many people will be like, well, Bryce is going to be pissed off. Good, be pissed off, dude. Like, Scott is absolutely right. You came here with the expectation of winning. You've been here for 6 years and you still haven't gotten it done. Like, there's a part of this equation that you're either going to be the LeBron James in the first regime of Cleveland Cavaliers, where you don't get the job done and you go to take your talents down to South Beach, and you do that, or you become Michael Jordan and you drag your team across the finish line. Like, that is the difference. And I feel like in this city right now, we have a guy, I know people will feel like this is being a little presumptuous, but with Jalen Hurts
Hmm.
doing the Michael Jordan, like dragging his team across the finish line, get on my back, I'm going to take us to the promised land. Bryce Harper has had that opportunity for 6 seasons and has failed all 6 seasons. So, my feeling, and James, I'll let you chime in on this. Your
Sure.
feelings towards how this season ended, and do you consider this season for the Philadelphia Phillies as big of a failure as other Philadelphia Phillies fans have considered it? Because you've listened to talk radio just like I have.
I have. Yeah. This is up there. I mean, it is up there with a lot of Philly collapses, and I mean, we've seen a lot in our history. Obviously, we can go back to 2011 with the one bloody nil, like our good friend Anthony Gargano would say about the St. Louis Cardinals. 2010 when they lost to the Cinderella Giants and they couldn't stop Lincecum and Brian Wilson in that year. This is the one thing I was telling you about this on This Week in Phillies baseball before we switched over to This Week in Flyers hockey is that I thought the Dodgers were like the perfect team for the Phillies to get healthy, and also at the same time too, I thought the Phillies would actually take that bullpen like they did in the season, like would take him like with more I guess more. I won't say more pizzazz, but at the same time too, I would have thought that it would have been I think it would have been a lot more easier said than done, if that's the right word. That like you saw their bullpen, I'm thinking, okay, their bullpen is like what happened last night with the Blue Jays. Like the way the Blue Jays had that 9-run inning last night against the Dodgers, I thought that was going to happen with the Phillies, but unfortunately, it's like the same old song and dance like they had in October for the last couple of years. Is that once October comes around, it's just like they forget how to play the game of baseball. And I guess like another buzzsaw happened again. Like last year was the Mets, and now it was this year with the Dodgers. But I don't know who's to blame for this. But I think I know how. I think when the pressure was on Topper, I think he was starting to make moves that were like confusing. But at the same time, too, I don't think it was more that it was. I mean, like they should have gone far, especially with the talent that they have, than going past the first round of the divisional. I mean, for God's sake, you had a fucking second round. I'm pardon my French, but you had one of the buys in the postseason. I mean, you didn't play in the first round, the wild card round. I mean, like you got to get a bye week. I mean, you should be better than what your team is. You know. I mean, it's just that. I mean, that's the thing that annoys me the most is that they didn't even show the hardest. And once again, it's just like it was like I said, the last year was the Dodgers getting in the way, and now it's this year that the Dodgers got in the way, and it's been the same old song and dance for the last couple of years, and something has to change at some point. I mean, maybe it starts this year. I mean, I don't know.
So here's the thing: credit Dave Roberts for in the Phillies Dodgers series where he knew his bullpen was trash.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did was but he knew his starting pitching was good.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was he supplemented some of his bullpen trash for some of his starting pitching gold.
Right.
And he said, if my starting pitching gold can get me through 7 innings, I have to take a gamble that my offense and the bullpen can get me through 2 or 3 innings out of maybe even 6 or 7 innings out of 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that you have your top 3 hitters, Schwarber, Turner, and Harper, that
3 for 31
over,
was it, right? 3
right,
for 31.
but go over for the first 2 games.
Yeah.
You know, that puts you in a hole. And that puts you in a hole in which you don't feel like you can climb out of, or it's daunting to climb out of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to go into to deeper into the Bryce Harper thing, Scott, you have a guy up there in Juan Soto, and what regardless of what the perspective is about him, especially only because he's only been there for a year, and you know, hopefully maybe he will turn it around. I don't know, but with Bryce Harper, he has been hyped up in this league since he came into it at 19 years old. My question to you is Harper at this point in his career more hype than talent? Because for everyone who sits there and says Harper is this great postseason guy, he had Bedlam at the bank. He had the one home run where against the Braves where he proved that one guy wrong on the Braves for teasing him after the game. So, okay, he had 2 moments in the last 4 years in the postseason. I got to ask, because I'm starting to feel like there's more hype than substance with Bryce Harper's talent. From the outside perspective, am I leaning into something, or do you feel differently?
I think in this case, when you look at Bryce Harper, what I think is happening, I think honestly, he's starting to tire. He's 32 years old. We'll talk about, Schwarber being 32 in a second, but
sure.
But I'm looking at his numbers right now since signing with the Phillies, and I'm just going to go on. I'm going to go on batting average here. We'll start with batting average since 2021: 309, 286, 293, 285, 261. His on base percentage has slowly been dropping. His RBI count has never actually, truth be told, his RBI count has not broken 100 since the 2019 season. So you're looking at somebody right now that maybe has not been able to live up to that contract, and has struggled in a lot of ways, and also is, like I said, maybe just getting tired. You know, he played 132 games this season. His WAR was 3.2, which was a little bit less than it was last year. But you're looking at a team that I think is built to win, but he's just, I think at 32 years old, I think the wheels are starting to break down.
It's a valid point. I mean, I thought about this too when Harper was like having his struggles. Like I said to myself, I think we showed proof that this year, like I think I had like an injury list of all the years that he's been injured, going back to his first couple years with the Phillies.
We compared it to Embiid.
We compared it to Joel Embiid. Yeah, I mean it was that like that obsolete. You know, it was that huge of a list. I mean, yeah. I mean the thing too is that with Harper is that I mean, I agree with Scott. I think it's more age more than anything. I mean, he's coming up on 32. I mean, he's been here for almost 7 years now, and only like one shining moment, like the quote that, and Bellum at the bank in 2022, and that's going to be 5 years next year. Like we're going to talk about almost 5 years that the Phillies got back to the World Series. I mean, yeah, there was a time when, Arcia like heckled him, like the one you would tell me about, Joey, the one that said "Attaboy Harper" in 2023. Yeah. But after that, it felt like it was just like it's been nothing but disappointment for him. I mean, age is a good example of that. I mean, but also injuries can also do a thing too about that too. Maybe it's like injuries and him getting older is the reason why he's not effective like he once was.
Yeah, and this is why I kind of agree with why Dave Dombrowski. Now, he walked it back on a podcast called Foul Territory
right.
about his, Bryce Harper not playing elite this past season. And I feel like that word in Philadelphia, elite, has been thrown around willy-nilly the last month and a half, whether it's talking about Bryce Harper or whether it's talking about, Jalen Hurts. Let's understand what the adjective really means. Okay, elite is you stand above the rest. You stand above the common man. You stand above the good players, and you are at the top of your game. Bryce Harper has not been at the top of his game for quite some time, and both you and Scott have both pointed it out.
Yep.
My feeling is, and again, I don't want to do it, but my feeling is if I get phone calls about Bryce Harper, trading Bryce Harper, I'm answering the call because for me, I don't know, just like Scott pointed out, I don't know if he's going to be declining even more. And if he's going to be declining even more, we're going to get further and further away from that goal of a World Series championship. I don't feel like we'll get closer. We can tackle some of the free agency conversation with JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber, Ranger Suarez, Bader, like all these guys. If all of these guys walk away from this team, that depletes it even more. That depletes that hope for things even more. So I got to ask, Scott, my next question: do the Phillies have hope in what can be the foreseeable future of a championship run? And this is where I'll ask when it comes down to your Mets. Juan Soto may have had an okay year, not an elite year, but the Mets are still a formidable team. And I will give them credit where credit is due. They are still a formidable team. My question to you is, which team might get it done sooner? Get to the promised land sooner, the New York Mets or the Philadelphia Phillies?
I would have to say, honestly, objectively, and my wife will appreciate this, the Mets probably first.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying this is I see similarities with Juan Soto that I saw with Francisco Lindor. When Lindor signed that monster contract with the Mets, he sucked year one because there's the pressure weighing down on you of money. It's a weird concept, but sports has such a degree of pressure that I think the fans don't always understand it. And they're like, oh, he's making $80 million. Yeah, he's making $80 million. The amount of pressure that's on you as a kid to justify that. And Francisco Lindor sucked year one. You can see this a lot with big contracts where they kind of the players have a challenge early on right out of the gate, and then once they adapt to it. So I think Soto will be better next year. In a couple years after that, we'll see what happens injury-wise. But for right now, for 2026, yes. I think Steve Cohen is in a position right now where he's borderline desperation mode. He has the casino that's going up in Queens. He has Etihad Park, which is going to be a rival to some degree right in his neighborhood with soccer there. He wants to be the king of New York, when it comes to sports here. That's why he got Soto. That's why he's been paying the kind of money he's got. It's an embarrassing result. Don't get me wrong. But I think right now with the Philly Nation, the issue is you have so many free agent questions right now. And there's a lot of players whose contracts are up, and you're going to have to assume that you might lose a couple there. Now, if that happens, let's say Schwarber goes, let's say somebody like this ends up leaving. Ironically, I wonder if this could help Bryce Harper in Philly a little bit, because he played 130 games last year at first base and only 2 as a DH. If you transition him to DH, it might help his legs a little bit. And coming off the bench, the reason Ohtani's been putting up the numbers he's put up is because he's mainly a DH. Last year, everybody peed all over themselves, first 50-50 player. The dude didn't have to bring a mitt to the ballpark. Right. He was a DH the entire season. He never brought a glove to the ballpark. He never had to. So, the DH rule is helping players be able to have a longer career a little bit, because they don't have to have the wear and tear of playing in the field. And for Bryce Harper, transition to from first base to more of a DH role, not complete, but more, I think could help him a little bit there. Now, again, the question and the concerns that exist is you look at the free agents that are available, that are gone, right? Or possibly risking leaving. Realmuto, Schwarber, Dave Robertson on the other side, Kepler, Ranger Suarez, you mentioned him, although that's arbitration. Jordan Romano, Tim Meza, Lou Trevino, Walker Buehler. That is a laundry list of players that could bolt in the offseason. And will they go to the Dodgers? Possibly. Will they go to the Yankees? Also possibly. I think there's something in there to that too. But I don't know if right now, to answer your question and circle back to it, if the Phillies are going to be able to overtake the Mets next year. I think it's going to be a little bit of a flip-flop there. Can the Phillies make the wild card? Absolutely. You see what happens with the wild card system. I think I like the wild card system way more than I thought I would. And I think the team can absolutely compete for something like that. You look at a team like San Diego, they get close, they fall short. You see Cincinnati, they had a better season. I don't know if they can keep that up for next season. And then you see the tail offs of teams like the Marlins and the Pirates. They're out from game one.
Sure.
So, I think with the wild card system the way it is, it's easier to get into the postseason. And even if you lose a couple of players, I think the Phillies should still get the postseason anyway, at least one form or another.
James, I'm going to ask you the same question, and then I'll chime in on my opinion on it. So, which team do you think has more of a chance next season to be able to reach that higher plateau, whether it's the World Series or above?
Yeah, that's a good question, Joe, because you think about it. I mean, I'm not sure, but I think the Phillies are going to take a step back. I really believe so, because you think about the years that they had here for the last couple of years, going back to 2022. It's been disappointment, right? It's been disappointment with the Diamondbacks in 23, the Mets in 24, now the Dodgers here in 25. I don't think it will be a setback as bad as a setback as I thought it was in 2011, after 2011, and then 2012 they just drop off the face of the earth. But I do believe that this is going to be up to, when it comes down to it, it's going to be who's going to be here next year. Like even Scott brought up, is that we got a lot of free agents on this team. Like Schwarber's a free agent, JT's a free agent. Obviously, you still got Trey and Bryce on that contract, but majority of the lineup, the one thing I worry about with this Phillies team is, dare I say this, is that I worry that they're going to run it back again. Like, if they run it back again, we are going to be in deep trouble. I mean, I really believe that because you can't run it back with the same group of guys like you did for the last 3 or almost 4 years now. I mean, and the worst part about it is that I heard excuses from Dabrowski saying, "Oh well, the Dodgers were a better team," and we heard that last year with the Mets. And I don't necessarily agree with Joe Giglio says on some of the stuff he says about Jalen Hurts wise, but he's right about this too. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear about the negative, the positivity is that, oh, we were right there, and then this, that, and the other, and everything but the kitchen sink. I don't want to hear it. I mean, we have gone. I mean, this is going to be 5 years, coming up on 5 years next year, that the Phillies got to the World Series. I mean, unless you have to put your money where your mouth is, and also have to find a way to try to bring in. I mean, Harrison Bader was actually like I said, a jubilation to this team, is because the team was desperately looking for players. I mean, I got to say right now, I was wrong about Bader. I don't know how it was about the Johan Duran thing, but I'll tell you right now, when they were doing the entrance, when the Phillies were down 4-1, I think it was like low key for somebody to do that. I mean, it's kind of like they read the room. Everybody's been saying they read the room with that situation, especially when the Phillies are down 4 runs or 3 runs at the time. But like, if the Phillies run it back this year, like with the same group of guys, I mean, I want to say they won't make the playoffs, but it will be a big setback, though, for sure.
So my feeling is this: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again
Exactly.
and expecting a different result. 4 years in a row, we have done the same. We have suited up the same guys with different little ingredients added in, and we expect different results. And to be honest, when we went 2022 to the World Series, I was with everybody else in believing that in 2023, when we were going to the NLCS and facing the Diamondbacks, that we were going to go back to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the same way as everyone else. And then when I saw the collapse happen, it made me feel like, well, wait, this isn't working. And then 2024 happens, and everyone, including Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson and John Middleton, are all telling me this is a championship caliber team. Okay, you can't say that when you haven't done it. And I get it.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, basically.
You can't make that statement without having a championship. I'm not just talking about a National League pennant. I'm not talking about a National League East divisional championship. I'm not talking you. If you want to go small potatoes, that's fine. If that's the way you want to live, that's fine. Back in the 90s, when the Atlanta Braves won like 8 straight divisional championships, they only had 1 World Series win.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand, if you are satisfied with divisional championships, go right ahead, run it back, and that's what it is. But come October, do not expect the bank to be filled up, because guess what? Once you clinch that division championship, we all know you have checked out. We all know that the team has checked out because they've accomplished your goal as a championship caliber team. You making the statement that this is a championship team back in 2024 is asinine. And then for you to sit there and say back-to-back off seasons that we ran against a good team in the Mets or the Dodgers. Well, here's a news flash there, buddy boy. You're going to run against good teams in the playoffs. That's what the playoffs are. You run against the best teams in the majors. You have to beat the best to be the best. I don't know if you lost that between your, time in Detroit and time in Boston or whatnot, but guess what? It hasn't changed. You have to beat the better teams in order to be the best team. And I think this offseason, the only way the Phillies can make a better turnaround than the Mets is that they take on the youth movement, that they say, okay, it's time to move on from Nick Castellanos. It's time to bring up JT Crawford. It's time to move on from Alec Baum, and it's time to bring up Aiden Miller. It's time to move on from someone like, Aaron Nola, and bring up an Andrew Painter. It's time to move on from some of the guys that you have sat there and said, okay, we feel some kind of loyalty. No, there is no more loyalty. Nick Castellanos batted like below 230 for the majority of the season. We expected more out of him and got less. His fielding took a dip. Max Kepler and Nick Castellanos are the same damn player, just batting differently. You have guys like Harrison Bader, Brandon Marsh that have shown improvement in this lineup. You bring up someone like JT Crawford who comes with the pedigree and the skill set to be able to change that game. And I'm not saying he's going to flip it, but he's going to be at least a bright spot. We need to start to transition this team away from the older guys and bringing in the youth movement. We have to bite the bullet now because otherwise we are going to run into what happened at the end of 2011. We are going to run into that wall of ineptitude, of no youth, no having aged players that we're trying to get out of here with Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, and Chase Utley. And we're going to be dealing with that. And look, the New York Mets, as much as it pains me to say this, they were injured. They had a lot of injuries towards the end of this season. That affected their ability to win games when they should have.
Mm-hmm.
That's not giving them an excuse. That's just saying the way it is. Now they get healthier, and that owner has not been shy about throwing his checkbook around, as Scott has pointed out. My feeling is this offseason for the Mets is just about getting richer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are dealing with a divisional rival in the New York Mets that is not shy about going for glory, then you have to ask yourself, are you either going to go for glory or are you going for the long haul? Because eventually Juan Soto is going to turn into Bryce Harper. Eventually his age is going to catch, and so is Francisco Lindor. So is Pete Alonso. Hell, Pete Alonso had such a great season this year, but they had him on the trade block.
Mm-hmm.
So,
gone, I think, but...
so you have to ask yourself the question. There is a bit of influx with the Mets, but they are closer than the Phillies. And the Phillies need to look at this with the long scope, not the short one.
Right.
If you start looking at this like, well, if we resign, Kyle Schwarber, if we resign JT Realmuto, we run it back, we're sure to get through next time. No,
it's not going to happen.
You're not going to do it because they're all going to be 1 year older, and you can't guarantee that they're going to have the type of year that they're going to have. But you bring up kids that can surprise you. If you have a guy like JT Crawford that can bat 280 and hit 20 home runs and 80 RBIs, if you got a guy like Aiden Miller who can hit 30 or 40 doubles in a season, if you got guys like Andrew Painter who can maybe shore up that pitching rotation, because we don't know if Zach Wheeler is going to even come back. Like, let's be clear. Just because he had that surgery and he does his rehab does not mean he's coming back. There are guys that have that outlet surgery that are never the same again. Markelle Fultz is a prime example of that. He was just never the right player after he had that surgery. And not to say Markelle Fultz is anything like Zach Wheeler, but when you have an elite guy like Zach Wheeler have that severe of a surgery, you have to ask yourself, and he's only giving himself 1 more year in this career. Can you do it? I don't know, but there has to be an infusion of youth, and it has to start now. And I feel like that's why when you trade for Nick Castellanos and Alec Baum, you have to go get prospects. You have to go get prospects that you're going to see in a year or two. Not that you're going to see in 4 years. not our not our single A or double A guys that you're wishing upon a prayer. You got to see guys. You got to get these guys so that you could see them in a year or two. That's where this team flips, and it may be a disappointing season next year. But I agree with Scott. Despite the disappointing season, you still have Kyle Schwarber. You're still going to have Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. You're still going to have the pitching that you're going to have. The way that the wild card system is set up, there is a strong possibility they could still make the wild card, despite flipping that youth movement.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, the thing that really annoys me with this Phillies team, and you brought it up too, Joe, is that I worry about that it gets so what's the word? It gets exhausting to say that next year that you blew your opportunity to bring up like an Adam Miller or Justin Crawford. I mean, I'll bring up something that might sound weird here, and you know how much I'm not a big Sixers fan, especially with that big man on campus. But look what they did a couple days ago when they had VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey running the floor. That's what the Phillies have to do here. They got to bring in that young talent. What's that?
That infusion of young enthusiasm.
Right.
That's what is going to carry the day right now.
Exactly.
We have to start to look at whether these talent that we have down there, I mean,
is good enough.
And Scott, maybe you can answer this.
Okay.
So, system for the Mets any good? Because my question is, if the Phillies' only hope is that we flip the coin and we say, okay, bringing in this infusion of young talent might be the only way we, stave off, being irrelevant for the next decade. The Mets, we already know they have talent in the majors. Do they have talent in the farm system?
You look at a team like the Phillies in this case here. Now, the Phillies had the second oldest average batting average in Major League Baseball this year, second only behind the Dodgers. Dodgers have their own story, and I have numbers and stats if we get to it. But you also look at not just that as them being the second oldest batting, but they're also, I believe, sixth or seventh when it comes to pitching staff. So you do, like you said, you had to get younger. Their average batters are 30 plus years old at this point. The disparity is not that big. I mean, lowest in the league right now is the Marlins at 27 and some change. So it's not brutal in that way. But yeah, I think at some point you got to start looking younger. Also, not just because of the fact that, the wheels of a long season, but also because of the fact that you have to look at it from a monetary standpoint. How much is Schwarber going to command this year after 56 home runs and 132 ribbies? I mean, that's coin, and he can go pretty much anywhere he wants, and they'll just plug him in somewhere. First thought, Dodgers. Maybe second thought, Yankees. So.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going back home. I think he's going to Cincinnati. I honestly.
They afford him though.
They'll cut the check because they'll know to put butts in the seats.
Was that Castellanos?
No, I think Schwarber.
Oh, Schwarber.
Send him back home to Cincinnati because understand the only sellouts they had this season were the Phillies.
I could see that happen too. I mean the team I would say that could be a dark horse here for Schwarber. Maybe go back to Chicago, because they got a good team over there. Because you think about it, here's the thing. If the Phillies want to spend stupid money, like if Schwarber is not on their calling card to bring him back here in 2025 or 26, I would be sure that you have to go out of your way and get Kyle Tucker in here. Like you got to change something up here to make you gotta. The thing about the winter meetings at free agency for the last few years, there's been a lot of eye popping, like Trey Turner here, Bryce Harper acquisition, Manny Machado, yada yada yada. I don't want to see another move that that somehow it's supposed to help you out in the main run, but in the end, like in the words of Lincoln Park, it doesn't even matter, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just that's the thing with this Phillies team. Like, I need new blood on this team. I
Yeah.
mean, I need to see like the Cubs with the Pico Armstrongs, like they did this year, and see the young talent come up, like the Aiden Millers, the Justin Crawfords, like you mentioned, Joe. Maybe bring back Harrison Bader because he's like a good veteran presence in the locker room. Maybe Garrett Stubbs will be a veteran presence to help to get this team. But I just don't want to see this team run it back, because if you run it back, that when October comes around again, they're going to be like, oh shit, here we go again. You know, so it's kind of like it's going to be like Groundhog Day all over again. So that's the thing. I don't want to see this team run it back again, because once the Phillies run it back, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. They're going to be in big trouble.
I agree. And for me, with in regards to Kyle Schwarber, I honestly, I mean, you know how I feel, James. I want to resign him, and I agree with Scott. Like, he's going to be able to write his check wherever he wants to go. Like, that's just how it is. But my feeling is, when you take 56 home runs and 132 RBIs off the board, that's significant offense.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of wins that you're taking off the board, and so I don't have confidence that really is going to get picked up by anybody. And look, I get the Kyle Tucker; he's a sexy name to put out there, but I'm not sure Kyle Tucker's the answer either, because I honestly
you
think
can try. I mean, it can't hurt to try.
You try, but if Kyle Tucker's going to demand $25 million and Kyle Schwarber asked for $33 million, I'm giving Kyle Schwarber the $33 million, because $8 million for half the contribution is not worth it. That's it's not equity in that loss.
Well, my dad brings up a good point here. Joe Scores just says, seems like that the Phillies keep on always recruiting to throw young talent out there, and look how long it took them to bring up Ryan Howard, and they do it all the time, and they got to bring up I mean, that's the thing we were talking about here. We got to bring up the kids and let them grow together, and that's the thing. That's the thing that we're trying to say.
I know that the Seattle Mariners lost in the ALCS, okay?
Right.
But look at what they have done. And look at even what the Toronto Blue Jays have done. Like, they have brought up people in their farm system at a young age to let them grow.
Right.
You're looking at a Toronto Blue Jays team that Vlad Guerrero, Kevin Biggio, guys like that they have put. Now, I'm not to say that they haven't added other pieces. And that's one of the reasons why I brought up to Scott about the farm system for the Mets, because you can buy your team like the Mets and the Dodgers, but eventually, just like the Yankees found out, you can't buy it every year. Like, eventually that well runs dry. Eventually, the players just go, I don't really want to do it. Like, I really like Yankees back in like the early 2000s, where like the Yankees were literally buying their championships. People were like, yeah, I'll go play for the Yankees, but I'm not playing for the Yankees. I'm playing for the paycheck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not paying. I'm not playing for the name on my chest. I'm playing for the check, the money in my checking account.
Right.
And so, saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like that's kind of like the bulk of it. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this winter meetings are going to be interesting from both perspectives. The New York Mets camp, to see how much more money he opens up his checkbook for, and the Phillies camp to see whether or not there'll be trades, or just not, like, closing the checkbook and saying, okay, it's time to move on.
Time to move on. Yeah, right.
Before we move on ourselves, I wanted to promote next week we will not have a show, but instead me and James will be at an event here locally in South Philadelphia. Since I lost my sight about 4 years ago, I have been raising money through knitting scarves, and the the charity that I call it is Scarves for Sight. This is the technology in order to help me to regain my independence isn't cheap. And so trying to raise that money and gain that independence again through technology has been my mission. So learning how to knit scarves and be able to supply that to people in Philadelphia and whatnot, it has been kind of my mission. So next Saturday, James, if you could put up the flyer,
Got it right here, buddy.
we are going to be at Gold Star Playground at 6th and Wharton between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Come by. It's a flea market. The scarves are 15 for 1, 25 for 2, hand knitted, all different kinds of colors, textures, thicknesses, and lengths. Anything you want, we got it in that regard. It's for a good cause. Once again, that's Gold Star Playground, 9 to 3 next Saturday. Come down, check it out, get yourself a scarf, get ready for the winter. It's gonna get cold real soon. And so hope to see all you guys out there then. So moving on, transitioning to the Philadelphia Eagles. Scott, 2 weeks ago,
Knew this was coming.
the Philadelphia Eagles went up to MetLife and got a straight up New York mugging. Like New York PD could not save the Eagles for what they experienced up in MetLife. And literally just felt like we got thrown into the East River. So my question to you
Jesus.
is with that game, what were your takeaways from that game specifically that you felt like, whoa, okay, the Giants are good and the Eagles look horrible?
Do you remember Rocky 1?
I do.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened in that first round?
Yes.
Yeah.
That can happen to any team from any team.
Hmm.
You know, I think the way I'm putting this delicately is the fact that, don't overhype the Giants. They are the second most losingest team in the NFL since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Second only, by the way, to the Jets. So the Jets and the Giants literally are not only 1-2 when it comes to most losses, but also fewest first downs, fewest points, and a few other categories as well. The Giants are a mess. They will remain a mess. I have no faith that they will not be a mess. You saw that perfectly evidenced last week, when they had the massive lead against the Broncos. And then just blew it because Giants got a Giants. They will, so it's not. So what happened there? I think personally, I think the Eagles were playing for the following week. Where I think you don't play enough, you overconfidence yourself into a fight, into any kind of a sporting event, or any kind of game rather. Let me rephrase that. And as a result, you think past that game, and you're not prepared enough for this one. So were the Eagles embarrassed? Big time. Not just embarrassed because of the fact that it was the Giants, but because it was on a national stage and there was a lot of pub on it. But I think with what's going to happen coming up tomorrow is you're going to see an Eagles team here that is going to be prepared for this now. They have more footage on Jackson Dart. They have more to work with, and the expectation and the belief that they will not allow it to happen a second time. The Giants historically have not done well in Philly for the last few years either, so let's back into that. And no, I think it was one of those things where I think the Eagles were caught off guard. They were overconfident and they got slugged.
Now, my question to you, I mean, I will give credit where credit's due once again, is Jackson Dart and Scattaboo. They're both two like really young up and coming stars. I do not know. This is the part of me that boggles my mind, where the New York Mets like spend money and like are calculated with their roster moves and decisions. The New York Football Giants are not. They go and get Russell Wilson and they go get all these quarterbacks in this quarterback room, and then they go and draft Jackson Dart. And I'm like, I get the Jackson Dart draft. but the draft pick. But then why the hell do you have Russell Wilson there? Like that just seems.
I like the Russell Wilson deal originally. Actually, sorry I cut you off.
No, I'm just like I'm puzzled. Like I get that the Russell Wilson deal maybe financially made sense, and maybe even like he's a I don't know, like a stopgap kind of quarterback. But I'm just curious. Like you guys have these very peculiar roster moves where you bring in these quarterbacks, yet you have one quality receiver.
Well, the injuries that have happened haven't helped there either. But
No.
I like personally to talk about Russell Wilson first. I like the Russell Wilson deal. It surprised me a little bit because, I liked a lot of the stuff that they did in the offseason there. Abdul Carter, obviously you mentioned Jackson Dart. But I felt Russell Wilson it was a good chance on both sides to provide a little bit of mentorship and for him to show he still has something in the tank. Now, in that game against Dallas, he threw for 450 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Granted, the pick, just like with Jackson Dart, is what undid the team, the team in that game. But he put up career numbers. So he still had it. Now, I was actually very happy. I wanted the Giants to get Russell Wilson back when he was available before he went to Denver. Because there was the whole talk, do they re-sign Daniel Jones? Do they not? And I wanted Russell Wilson then too. And I think it would have been a better move in a lot of different ways. But I feel like the Giants are trying to figure out how to, compete. And they still haven't quite figured some stuff out there. There were things that came out that they did really try and re-sign Saquon Barkley, but he's not like, nope, peace out. It's not like they didn't just say, screw it. They really did try. But you're seeing right now when you see Saquon did last year, you're seeing what Daniel Jones is doing this year, where players are leaving this area. Devontae Adams, we'll put him, with LA. Granted, it's the Jets, but still the New York environment. You see these players that leave, and all of a sudden they start picking it up again. Because I think, and you listen, Philly Nation, you guys think your media is tough. It's not. Your media is a bunch of candy asses versus New York. And listen, I work with the New York media. Philly is laid back by comparison. And it is a much more suburban feel than New York City is. And it may surprise some of you guys to hear this, but dude, I'm in the middle of this crap. And, I think as a result, when people leave New York and go to someplace a little more chill, their talent comes out a little bit more because there isn't the, the asshole douchebag approach that New York City has. Philly has fanaticism, yes, but there is a greater
realization, right?
Yeah, there's a greater energy. So you see, what happened, when Saquon went down the turnpike. Now, will he do the same numbers he did this year? This year he did last year? No, he's not, and he wasn't going to. But and I'll get back to the topic in a second. But Saquon is forever etched into Eagles lore. Even if he never played another snap past that Super Bowl, he is a legend forever. Just because of what he did last year. And when you see the Giants, it's tough on this side because, listen, I'm happy for Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. He's not putting up monster numbers, but he's putting up good control numbers. And he's it's New York City versus Indiana. Come on. So as a result, there's a little bit more of a calm feel there. And there's a pressure in New York that I've been watching over the last 5 years as the city gets more and more desperate. The big four have not won a championship since 2019. I'm sorry, 2009, correction, 2009. Whenever it's mentioned over here that like NYCFC for MLS won or Gotham or the New York Liberty, the instant response is from New York fans, that's not a sport. Because it qualifies, NYCFC. I was there for that one. The New York Liberty, the Gotham FC team, these are teams in the New York City area that call themselves New York, that even New Yorkers are like, no, it doesn't count.
Yeah, we had that in Philadelphia with the Soul.
Yes,
before
that's
the
true.
Eagles won the Super Bowl, the second Super Bowl, that the Soul won a championship, and it was like, look, the Soul won the championship. Like, yeah, it's not a sport. Yeah. Like, it's not real. Like,
well, I'll say this right now too, because you brought up a good point here, Joe. Every year that the Soul won that Arena Bowl, a Philly team won a championship. Because in 2008, the Soul won the Arena Bowl, Phillies won the World Series, and then I think it was like a few years later the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So it's kind of like it was like good karma, you know?
Right. And like that's the other thing is like the Wings, they were good. And
Yeah.
like again, it goes back to the same
Phantoms,
thing.
even the
Yeah,
Phantoms
Phantoms.
when they won the Calder Cup
World
against
Cup.
Chicago.
Yeah. And so, like that's the thing is like Philly is a lot like in that regard, is that we take certain sports for granted, and it's like, wait, but there's a championship. We should have a parade. No, 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 it doesn't count. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
Well-
it's like if this were Arkansas, it would matter. Damn
Right.
it.
Well, I was going to ask you that too, since you brought up like Arkansas, like a college team like Georgia, for an example. What people say that too, and even like Villanova winning those couple national titles here and there.
Like, I mean, if you have like these smaller markets like Georgia, that like they're like Georgia has Atlanta, sure, but like if you're talking about like Athens, Georgia,
Right.
like that is Bulldog country.
Bulldog country, exactly
And
right,
so
brother.
like if the Bulldogs win a national championship, there is a parade.
Yeah.
And because that is their sport but when you go into these bigger markets like Philadelphia and New York,
Even Alabama too.
right? You go into these bigger markets like Philadelphia and New York, it has to be the big 4.
Mhm.
It has to be the big 4 that win. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's so unfortunate to the other teams that really put their blood, sweat, and tears into those seasons, into gaining that championship, to gaining that recognition. I'll give a plug to Streampunk Entertainment, Scott's company, in the sense that Streampunk Entertainment basically highlights some of these secondary sports because you know what? Damn it, they deserve that platform. They deserve that, recognition. So that is something I can appreciate. But getting back to the New York Football Giants, like you have some upside. You got Malik Neighbors, you got Jackson Dart, you got Scattaboo. Those 3 on your offense are a nice core. Okay. I know Malik Neighbors got hurt. On the defense, you got Burns, you got,
Abdul Carter.
You have a couple Thibodeau. Like you have guys that are there. That defensive line is formidable. You start to move these things where you're moving the nucleus and moving the core. Now, whether or not Joe Shane actually knows what he's doing is still a question mark. But the part that I'm kind of seeing is that they're building. And we'll see if they can continue to build. But my question to you is, do you feel like as a guy who follows this team, do you feel like this team is building and trending in the right direction?
I do, but with a big question mark. And the question mark isn't what's on the field, it's what's going to happen to the front office. Now, right now, with this team being as bad as they are, there has been the Brian Dable and Joe Sheen have been under the hot seat since the season started. So the question is, if they get the axe at the end of the season, you got a new coach and a new GM to come in. Okay, fine. But now they've inherited other draft picks, and that's where the issue comes in, where when Dable came in, he inherited Daniel Jones.
Right.
And also at the same time, there's been this rotating, Ben McAdoo, Joe Judge, this just revolving door of coaches there. And the Giants were concerned about firing Joe Judge because of the fact that they already had the reputation of dumping everybody anyway. And Joe Judge, if you remember, gave me the worst moment I've ever had as a Giants fan when they did a quarterback sneak on 3rd down at their own 4-yard line in the second quarter. So, pull that one up. That was, but
oh wow! Oh jeez.
They did two. Yep.
Was that the Daniel Jones when he ran it back and he like slipped?
No. That was, but that was the slip and fall. He still got an 80-yard run. They still scored a touchdown fine. Okay, that was just funny. But no,
Okay.
This was a final game against Washington. Last
I
home game
see.
of the year. Last game of the year. They had the ball at their 1 yard line, and they did 2 quarterback sneaks on second down and third down at the 1 yard line. They were pre-planning a punt out of the end zone from second down.
Oh my God!
And if you look it up, it was just one of those things that we were all. I remember I walked back in the room. I'm looking at this, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, "The hell are they doing?" And then I think it was like I forget who the broadcaster was. Like, okay, this is just sad. And that's
not like Kevin Patullo's offense when he goes on third down at 15 and he runs a low screen over the middle or something like. I don't know.
But at least
screen
a
pass.
screen might catch them off guard. What are you doing with a quarterback sneak twice in a row? But they still were afraid to fire that head coach.
I wouldn't know, dude.
But so when Dable came in and Sheen came in with the pedigree that they had with Buffalo, we were like, okay, maybe there's a shot here. And you know what? In their first year, they went to the playoffs. They beat Minnesota in the first round. And we were like, holy shit, there's something here. It was exciting because their first game, they went for it. They had the opportunity to tie it up with an extra point and went for the 2-point conversion. And we were like, okay, even if they don't get it, you can see this team is trying. And then they won in London against Aaron Rodgers. And the Giants made the playoffs. And we're like, holy shit. And they re-signed Daniel Jones and after that. So, but the Giants right now, who knows? I think Dable and Sheen deserve, I think, another year regardless of what happens here because they were smart in the offseason. They got to give, Carter another chance. Neighbors can come back next year. Jackson Dart, I think, gets another year with that. So I think there's potential with this team. But at the same time, Giants got a Giants, Jets got a Jet, and
there's
always Canadian football right now. So go Rough Riders.
Right. Well, you're not a Rangers fan. You're a Devils fan, right?
Long time.
I was gonna say I was gonna ask you about the Rangers real quick, but I forgot.
I can talk about the Rangers. Believe me, as the ugly stepchild team here for the New York Arena, please.
But one of the things you brought up earlier about the New York media. Now I got to ask. So, like, AJ Brown has been the big story this past week. With the Philadelphia media, they've been torching this guy. And he has refused to take interviews, a locker room. He's not playing this week. There's rumors spread, going all around about whether we're trading AJ Brown or not, and all of this. My question to you is, what is your takeaway from the AJ Brown? What do I call it? AJ Brown situation. What's your outside opinion of the AJ Brown situation from New York?
I don't think he's leaving Philly, if that's what you're worried about. I think in this case here, it's a team that has the chance to win a Super Bowl every single year. And I don't think he's gone. I think it's a little more hype because, again, unfortunately, the media side, it's all about clickbait. And, AJ Brown is a big name, obviously the Super Bowl, all these kind of things, you have to clickbait. And that's why it's always funny when you see these articles. It's like AJ Brown on the move, ? You click on it. And deep down in the article, it's like, no, he's fine. So because it's all about the clicks. And I hate that part of it. I really, really, really
I hate it as much as you do, man. I hate it too.
It's funny because I've always tried to be a little bit more on the positive side with a lot of these athletes. It's like, okay, you lost 16-0 and all this kind of stuff, as a Mets player, you lost 16-0. But what were some positive takeaways, But
other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, that was the play.
Thank you. Like I said, here's the other thing. Maybe because I'm 50 years old now, I try to be a little softer with what I deem as kids.
Sure.
Because at this point, these guys are half my age, and or at least, I was able to legally drink by the time they were born. So, so as a result, I try to be a little softer on this than some people are, I think. But in this, I don't think he's going to go anywhere is the bottom line. I think it's something that is a little bit of hype. The hamstring injury, maybe he is legit out. And I think it could very well be, because it is a long season. And again, I think the Eagles are more prepared for the Giants than they were the first time around. So maybe they can actually get away with not having him in the lineup. But no, I think it's much ado about nothing. I wouldn't sweat it too much. And I think the Eagles are going to definitely win tomorrow. So
yeah,
Cool.
like we're gonna get into that in a minute. One of the questions that I had about like AJ Brown, and you bring it up about clickbait. Throughout the off season, after they won the Super Bowl, he was on Instagram, he was on his social media with his son. He was talking about a lot of things, putting up a lot of, even then, some cryptic messages and whatnot. Now, I said this yesterday on Fly Like an Eagle. We can all scrutinize him, but his social media is his space.
Mhm.
It's his space to express himself. I understand that. My thing is, and you bring up clickbait. My thing is, some of these athletes, they think long term. Like
Mhm.
you look at like a Paul George, who's got his podcast. He's thinking past his career. Like he's thinking past basketball. He's thinking past, like, okay, when I hang it up, what am I going to do? Okay, I'll just do this podcast thing. You look at Jason Kelsey. He fell into ESPN. He fell into some of this other stuff
and a
because
1,000 commercials.
right,
Yeah,
because
right. Kelsey,
he's
that
the
one we're gonna
he's
admit.
the lovable, adorable Jason Kelsey. Like that's the thing. So like that is something that every athlete tries to figure out after they hang it up. What do I do next? AJ Brown, I think, is closer to the end than the beginning of his career.
Mm.
Now, that being said, is he trying to be a social influencer? I don't know. Is he trying to be, someone who's trying to stay on the radar and be relevant all the time? Is he trying to be an attention whore? Like, what is it that he is trying to be? Now, this is the only person that can really answer that question genuinely is AJ Brown. But what I would say is AJ sending out all these cryptic, messages and posts and whatnot. It is getting his name
Mhm.
in these clickbait kind of things. So his name, when if I'm going to get technical for a minute here, the search engine optimization for Google and all the other search engines, it's dinging like crazy for
Mhm.
AJ Brown because it's the probably most searched thing out there as far as the NFL is concerned. So when you're relevant, it doesn't matter what you're relevant for. If you're relevant, you're relevant.
Mhm.
And so AJ Brown is just trying to stay relevant as long as he can because he doesn't want to, he wants to know whether or not he can gain more of a following because maybe that's what he's going to pursue when he's done. He's going to be a social influencer. I mean, okay, that's your calling card. That's fine. Uh, but you haven't heard this kind of translate to he's knocking down his teammates in the locker room. I haven't heard that. So until that happens, I am not going to worry too much. I want to get into the game, and we have a great game on tap for tomorrow. Eagles Giants 1 o'clock, Lincoln Financial Field. I want to get what you're looking to see in that game tomorrow, Scott, and what you think the score prediction might be for that game.
We mentioned Rocky before. I'm going to use a phrase in this case here that Mr. T used: pain. Now, granted, Mr. T lost that fight, but leave that part out of it for now. Like I said, I think the Eagles are prepared for this one. They're not going to let it happen again because they don't want to be embarrassed twice in a row by the friggin' Giants. Like I said, the Giants have been a colossal embarrassment for 10 years now, and people will harken back to the Super Bowls. Fine, those were flash in the pan Super Bowls. Those were not build up. Those were lucky in the moment. So, I think the Eagles playing at home, Sunday at 1 p.m. game. I think it's going to also affect the Philadelphia Union's playoff game as far as attendance goes. I think it's going to really hurt them. Which I got two guys. JD and Kyle are going to be there tomorrow as press, but you guys know them. So I think the Eagles will be ready for this. I think the Eagles will be on fire for this. And I think the Giants, if the Giants can at least keep it close to the fourth quarter, fine. But I'm sorry, especially even after the embarrassment of what happened last week. If the Giants had won last week, even if they figured out a way to, despite the collapse, find a way to pull out a win, I think this would be a closer game. But I think last week got in their heads, and I don't give a crap what people say. These players are goldfish, but they're not goldfish. It sits in the back of their mind, especially when you have the mentality of playing not to lose versus playing to win. And that's the difference between teams like the Jets and the Giants and teams like, say, the Eagles or Kansas City or even San Francisco, where you have these teams where they have the mentality of playing to win versus playing not to lose. And the Giants are playing not to lose right now. And that's why I think they're going to get trashed tomorrow. I really do. Yeah, like the comment just came in. Basically, the Giants haven't won in Philly in 12 years. Thank you.
Wow.
So that's...
And that was, see, I'm trying to think about 2013. It was,
that was the year after the Giants Super Bowl, I think. But...
Yeah. I think it was Chip, obviously it was Chip Kelly. I'm thinking, I don't know if it was, that was like the Matt Barkley game. If I
don't remember offhand.
I remember there was like, Nick Foles got hurt against Dallas, and I think that next week it was like Michael Vick and Matt Barkley like took control of snaps. I think it was more Matt. I think Matt Barkley started that game, if I can remember closely.
So, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
38-14.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. So we're in the same category as our score predictions yesterday, dude.
Yes.
Damn.
So one of the things.
Sorry to wait so long and have to think about that one.
Yeah, so one of the things that I feel about this game tomorrow is that the Eagles got punched in the face. And they got punched in the face not by the Jacksonville Jaguars, not by the Indianapolis Colts, not by the Denver Broncos either. They got punched in the face by one of their divisional rivals, the New York Football Giants. And they got that done on prime time on national television. That didn't sit well with any of them. And I think that was proof why they went to Minnesota and did what they did. Now, look, my feeling is real simple. That secondary for the Giants is exposed. There's nothing back there. I brought up earlier about their defensive line. They're great. I hope our offensive line plays pissed off. I want them to punch that defensive line in the face and go, you're not getting to anybody today, so you better buckle up. And so my feeling is this, whether it's Jahad Johnson, whether it's Devontae Smith, whether it's, Saquon Barkley, hell, whether it's Darius Cooper, who just came off the practice squad, I do not care. Whether it's Machete, I don't care who it is. This is going to be an aerial attack. I feel like it's going to, expose the Giants for who they really are. 33 points in 5 minutes, as far as I heard it. I did not watch the game last week for the Giants, but that's what I heard that happened. 33 points in 5 minutes they gave up. Well, you're about to give up 34 points in a whole game. And you're going to give it up because you not because you need to, not because the Eagles, can, but because you don't got a choice. And so I have the Eagles on top of the Giants tomorrow, 34-17. James, what are some of your takeaways? What do you hope to see from tomorrow's game, and what's your score prediction?
Well, I guess this was before I got the news about AJ Brown being out, and also Cam Jurgens, and also Brandon Graham not playing tomorrow. So, this is going to be probably one of those games that I look at and say, okay, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. But there's a saying I always would say is that fool me 3 times, now that shit's on you. So I'm basically saying tomorrow that Jackson Dart, you fool me 3 times tomorrow, yeah, you're gonna be coming to get some payback, some in any which way. But no, all joking aside though. But
He
I
better
think
slide tomorrow. Jackson
what's
Dart better slide tomorrow. That's all I got to tell you.
yeah,
That kid has
yeah,
not been sliding. He better learn how to slide tomorrow because there's going to be guys going for his head.
yeah. I mean the thing too is that I think tomorrow we're gonna see a lot of it's not going to be like Scatterboo's not going to get a lot of carries like he did last week. I think Scatterboo is going to come into a buzzsaw with like Jalen Carter on the other side, or maybe a Jalen Hunt. But I say the Eagles are going to win tomorrow. Obviously, I think they're going to like. I mean, the way it looks to me, I think like last week, the Minnesota game. That was, I mean, that Giants game was like a wake up call for them because the next week they look very impressive against Minnesota, and I think it continues this week. So I think it's going to be. I would hope that this is a Saquon Barkley coming out party tomorrow to see what he does against the Giants to show Joe Shane's like, yeah, I'm still here. Thank you for not signing me on X, Y, and Z. But all kidding aside, but I gotta say the Eagles do win tomorrow. So I got the Eagles winning 34-14. And yeah, I mean, they'll be without their starting quarterback at safety tomorrow.
As a 40-year
Giants
Giants fan since Scott Brunner was quarterback, and I'm dating myself big time on that.
Oh my god!
I have like I said, I don't have faith in this team anymore. I just don't. Yeah, you got to prove it to me. If the team, a winning season, a successful season for me as a Giants fan this year would have been not last place and even better, a winning record.
Mm-hmm.
The best chance would be third place. Dallas fourth, but I can live with that. I can work with that. But it's a bad time for New York area football right now, which is why the Bills are like, we're the only New York team. And it's like, dude, I'm from Jersey. We don't want to acknowledge that this team is from here.
Yeah, I mean, even Buffalo has their flaws a little bit.
As a Giants fan, I'm in the area of prove it to me that you belong here and you're not a AAA football team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
and
it sounds like the Fuel song, something like Human.
Dude, I mean, honestly, between the Giants and I don't even care if the Jets make the Super Bowl. Something over here, come on.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I said it and I walked it back. We picked our dark horses for both the AFC and the NFC to make the playoffs this year, and my dark horse was the Jets. And just because what I saw in the first game, and they have free falled, and I'm like, okay, I was wrong about that one.
Well, let me ask you.
Now, my dark horse for the NFC still, I feel like, still alive and thriving, and that's the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Falcons are going to make a good trade at the trade deadline to put another piece of the puzzle, maybe even onto this offense. Because I would say it's been
good, man.
Well, the offense is starting to get it together. And I think if they start to get it together, they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year because they still have to put some pieces together on defense. But their offense can carry the day, at least initially in that division.
Well, I'll say this too. If the playoffs started today, I would like to see the Eagles play the Falcons in the first round. Like either like wild card or divisional round.
Sure.
I think it might be a good opponent.
Sure, because the Falcons' defense is garbage. But
not only that. I mean,
but it would be a score fest. It would be the NFC Championship game again, like it was with the Commanders. It would,
or maybe divisional round, probably.
Yeah. But my thing is that
hopefully we get the number one first round bye too. That would be even more bittersweet.
With New York, this is the way I've seen it, is that they have just made some really poor decisions in how they build their team.
Right.
When you look at the Eagles, the way that they built their team was through the front and worked backwards. The Giants are doing it like the Cowboys did. They we don't need an offensive line. The quarterback will be good enough, and we'll get receivers and a running back. We'll be fine. But it's like if you got your quarterback running with his like a chicken with his head cut off, it doesn't help. It doesn't matter what the talent is on the outside if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw the football. And it's one of the reasons why Denver beat the Eagles because they got to Jalen Hurts 6 times. Like if you get to the quarterback, it's a fact. If you get to the quarterback more times than not, your team's going to win the game. It's one of the reasons why the Ravens back in the early 2010s did what they did, because they got to the quarterback early and often. They had Trent freaking Dilfer as their goddamn quarterback. Yeah, like it's not. It's crazy. Um, Before we wrap up, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So, number one, if you like this episode and want to see more of this episode and more, please be sure to subscribe, like, and follow all of our social media and YouTube channels, both Streampunk Entertainment Pennsylvania, Streampunk Entertainment, Hardcore Sports Network, and much, much more. Also, one more time, James, if you want to put that flyer up.
Yep.
Guys, if next weekend me and James will not be on the air, but if you want to come talk some Philly sports, come down to Gold Star Playground at 6th and Wharton between 9 and 3 o'clock next Saturday. We're selling scarves to raise money for assistive technology. For me, I've lost my sight about 4 years ago, trying to regain independence and financial stability. So I'm selling scarves 15 for one, 25 for two. Get one for you and maybe your child or wife. Makes a good Christmas present. And the winter time is coming. As Jon Snow would say, winter is coming. Anyhow. So, Scott, where can people find you? What are some things on tap for Streampunk Entertainment and on the horizon?
All right. Well, I guess if we're going to shamelessly plug ourselves, on Thursday on the fight side, we had WBO current champion Teofimo Lopez. We also, on the Canadian football side, we had who do we have? CFL analyst Glenn Suter for the Grey Cup. That just happened this week. On the soccer side, we had both Joe Tollison also and the play-by-play guy for Charlotte FC this week. So we've had a good run there. Upcoming this week, I'm not sure exactly what we have on tap. Problem with being, the guy in charge is you don't always know what's going on underneath. So sometimes people usually just tell me, oh yeah, by the way, we have this guest or this guest. I do know in November we have a YouTuber by the name of the Real Peter Griffin. He's got a YouTuber with 750,000 Instagram followers and YouTube followers because he cosplays, sounds like, and completely looks like Peter Griffin. We're currently working on. We have content that we got to put out there. The guy that played the main guy in Gremlins, we got Mick Foley. I got to put the Mick Foley video out there from the interview we had there. Chris Sarandon from Princess Bride. Some of the Spaceballs cast as well. Yeah, we got a few things. We've interviewed Chris Sarandon in the past, so we got him back. So that's that is
very cool.
Month of November. Robert Englund, I mentioned to you guys through Scarefest. Snagged a couple minutes on the red carpet.
Hell yeah!
They call it black carpet because it's a horror event. So we got England for that. We've had a good run. Shameless plug, like you mentioned, Streampunk Entertainment. It's an umbrella organization. So whether your interest is in, in this case, lacrosse, whether it's in soccer, whether it's in Philly, because you guys mentioned Streampunk Sports PA. Thank you for that. Everything you guys have been doing with that. So we are kind of an umbrella thing where if you're familiar with basically Matt, Pat, and the theory channels where you have food theory, game theory, style theory, we work the same way, just in this case with sports and entertainment. So.
Where can people find you on
personally?
Social media?
Yeah. I am the only Scott Churchson. You can find me on YouTube at Almost a Z-List Celebrity because I've died in more horror films than I can think of at this point. People are like, oh, yeah, that guy. Weirdly enough, the HBO series, The Chair Company, apparently a couple people reached out to me, including Scorza this week, because I popped up in there. But
nice.
I'm the only Scott Churchson in the country, so you can throw my last name up. I didn't realize I should have done that here. There, I'll do it this way. Like I said, it's real easy to find me. S. Churchson on Instagram, Scott Churchson on Twitter, and really, like I said, you Google that, you find me, good, bad, and ugly, and a lot of it is kind of bad and ugly. So
nice, pretty bad stuff you got here, Derp.
Well, listen, it's Halloween season. It's spooky season. It's time for
Halloween or Christmas.
Horror to come out and play. But hopefully the horror show will be tomorrow at Lincoln Financial Field for the New York Football Giants.
But by the way, before we leave here, guys, tune in next. I actually not next week, but there's actually a game coming up this week for Eagles fans at the link. It's Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick going toe to toe against each other at the link. So I'll be looking forward to.
What is it? Norfolk State and Delaware
I think it's
State?
I think so. It's like two small colleges, but they'll be playing at the link this week. I think it's October 30th. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that too.
And I heard about a friendly bet between the two ex-teammates that is going. That's going to occur after the game. So stay tuned after the game if you're going to attend, because I don't know what the bet is, but apparently they're going to. The loser has to do the bet on the field after the game. So it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting game. It's worth the price of admission.
I think it'll sell out. I don't think it'll be a sellout, but I think it'll pay much. I think it'll pay a good fortune to see a couple experts taking on each other.
Yeah, I mean, look, it can't be any worse than what Bill Belichick's doing in North Carolina. I mean,
good point, right?
So, but
dude, his girlfriend's 24. Let's not
that's cringe. That shit's cringy. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm 30 years old. She could have done a lot better than him. No pun intended.
Yeah.
You talk about you feeling like these, associating yourself.
Hit me up, for God's sake. I'm a single MFer.
As kids, like, because you're 50, she could be his grandchild. Like that's where we're at.
This is like Hugh Hefner shit, though, Like he was like 90 and his girlfriend was like 30.
Yeah, there's only a difference though. Hugh Hefner had a lot of money. Bill Belichick has money, but I wouldn't go Hugh Hefner money. It's like
no. Well,
he's still doing well though for himself.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think he needs a shop at Costco. So
I think he still
that's true.
At Walmart for all the hoodies that he cuts the sleeves off. So I think he shops at pretty frugally.
Well, if he needs to look for another hoodie, just go to the shopping plaza.
Well, there you go. Thank you for the shameless plug. We are going to be going live with the shopping plaza. Hopefully, I've been working diligently on it. The shoppingplaza.store will be going live. Hopefully, come Black Friday.
She wants that money.
We are targeting for that. Maybe on the shopping plaza we'll have a personalized "Be Bill Belichick's girlfriend" kind of shirt. Anyhow, and where you can put your photo and whatnot. But anyway, let's wrap up and get out of here before I really get myself into trouble here. I want to first thank Scott Churchson for coming on our show. It's always great to talk to you. It's always great to get like the outside Philadelphia fandom perspective, especially from a guy who's very passionate about New York sports despite its inadequacies. Anyhow,
appreciate you coming on, man.
My Devils are still 7-1 though. My Devils are 7-1. So
yeah, they're off. I mean, hey, the Flyers are playing good hockey right now too. So it might be.
Remind me, New York Devils?
New Jersey.
Oh, right.
Hey, I'm Jersey first, man. I'm Jersey first.
So, all right. So
tell Putty we say hello.
Yeah.
So the Devils. You got to support the team.
Got to support the team.
So I want to thank James Scorza for being an excellent producer.
My pleasure, brother.
I want to thank everybody who've joined us. Please, once again, like, subscribe, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, all of the social media platforms. Go on YouTube, subscribe for Streampunk Entertainment, Hardcore Sports Network, and go check out all Streampunk's channels. There is plenty of content to see there. For James Scores, Scott Churchson, I'm Joe Marks. We are the Pattison Ave Sports Show, and let's go Birds, and we are out.
Go Birds. Let's get it.